Are you really aware of the scale of TfL licensed drivers operating outside London? A lot of reports I've seen, for example, suggest 53 TfL licensed drivers operating in Sheffield on a regular basis. There's taxi drivers in Bristol have got a WhatsApp group to look at TfL licensed drivers because it's a big problem there. I hear drivers in Watford are taking court action. In Aylesbury, outside the station, there is a huge congestion from private hire vehicles licensed in London now operating regularly in Aylesbury, Southend, for example, Dover, Truro, the list goes on. The scale is enormous. Because of the number of licenses being granted by TfL, there's just not the market in London. It seems that they're going outside and operating all around the country. Is this something that you've been previously aware of, and what can you do about the scale of the problem?
Can I just firstly kind of thank you for raising the issue in this environment. It's really important you raise that issue in this environment. Can I tell you the dilemma, which is basically if somebody satisfies the conditions to receive a license, they've got to be given one. We can't cap the numbers of PHV licenses in London. It's ridiculous. One of the things we're lobbying for is the ability to cap the number of private hire vehicles, not just for congestion reasons, but for the reasons you say. There are perverse incentives if you want to be a private hire vehicle, minicab driver, to apply for a license in the area where it's easiest to get a license. Now, I can accept the cross-border cases where you may want to leave one area to go to another area, either because of the start of a journey or the end. But there can be no justification for somebody with a license from one area to operation full-time in another area, whether we're exporting London PHV operators or whether we're importing. There's lots of stories. You've given me stories of, inverted commas, exports. I can tell you what, we've got lots of imports, people with licenses claimed elsewhere, working in London, often weekends, evenings, supplementing their income, moonlighting and stuff. And so we are lobbying. So Val Shawcross has met with Lord Tariq Ahmed, who understands the issue, the Transport Minister, on at least 2 occasions, raised this issue, and we'll carry on lobbying. But don't underestimate the power of the Assembly cross-party also maybe lobbying as well, and I'm happy to support you in that endeavour.
Yeah, I mean, obviously there's a lot of licences being given out, and you talk about conditions, that you can revoke the licences or not give the licences out if they don't meet TfL conditions. Could you make one of the conditions that if you have a TfL licence, you must operate in London?
Well, every time I suggest a new condition, Uber take me to court. Okay. TfL are always reviewing these things. Let me look at it. By the way, you asked a very good question last time about the numbers of licences we'd revoked, and I've written to you with that answer. Yeah, and if you're not happy with that, please do get in touch again.
I mean, are you also aware of the 2015 Deregulation Act? There's something that's come up when I've been researching this question that seems to be a bill, quite recent bill, that's actually allowed this cross-border trade. Were you aware of this act and the implications of it, whether intended or unintended? And are you doing anything to lobby to change this act if it could actually stop this cross-border trade?
I think the cross-border trade has been going on for many, many years. It's nothing new there. The issue is us lobbying the government to localise where the licensee can use the licence. I mean, if, for example, somebody wants to have a licence in 2 areas, that's a different argument. But for somebody to get a licence from one area and then use a minicab elsewhere around the country, that can't be right.
Just one further question, Mayor. You've written back to me on the number of licences you have revoked and suspended. But I will come back to the question I asked last time about your statement about Uber. If there was one single driver that didn't hold genuine paperwork, you would suspend their licence immediately. But you haven't done that. Now, does that mean that there hasn't been a case where there hasn't been a single driver they're holding genuine paperwork? They're all got genuine paperwork. Or does it mean that when you said that, you weren't properly aware of the implications of what you said, and it was a pledge that you actually now practically can't keep now you're sitting in that chair?
Well, let me be clear. I mean, I'm not sure what you're referring to, but Uber is licensed as a private hire operator as they meet the requirements set out in the private hire legislation. Action taken by TfL in respect of private hire licensees depends on compliance with private hire legislation, and it will take action in the event of any breach. I couldn't be any clearer.
But you said, that if there was one single Uber driver that didn't have genuine paperwork, you would suspend Uber's operating license immediately. That hasn't happened, has it?
So you've got the operator and the licensee. So if a licensee is in breach, action is taken by TfL. And by the way, we've quadrupled the number of compliance officers to make sure we take action against licensees. Clearly, if there are operators breaching, we'll take action against the operator. And the letter I wrote to you gave you a number for the numbers of revocations of operators and licensees as well.
Okay, well, I would love to carry on, but we're a bit out of time. But thank you for your answers, and I might write to you
Please do.
to clarify.
Yeah, please do.